Welcome to the other side of the Marvel Universe once again, not on Earth. We are in wherever the Guardians actually happen to live. It's never explained where in the entire galaxy the Guardians are, which I guess is fine. But we're here to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the swan song of James Gunn and his time at Marvel Comics, as he leaves with his wife, who's in this movie, to go to DC Comics permanently. Which is very funny. This is happening the same week that a big DC announcement was that Jim Lee is taking over DC's as president and publisher of DC Comics. So, James Gunn's leaving. DC gets a new president, and the first time ever, by the way, Asian Americans running DC Comics. And James Gunn is leaving Marvel after this. Now this movie finally out. So. But this is James Gunn's horror show all over the place. If you remember films like Slither and other things that he's done that is somewhat horror related, this is a true horror show. Just on the villain alone is now ranked, in my opinion, among Wilson Fisk, the kingpin of crime, Thanos, Loki when he's a bad guy, because Loki's kind of a good guy, sort of, for his own good evil purposes. The Red Skull, the Vulture, the Green Goblin. For the MCU villains, the High Evolutionary definitely hits that mark. So, fantastic villain for this film. Do we see him perish? You'll have to see the movie and find out. Who knows what can happen. But this guy, by the way, first appeared back in the Mighty Thor number 133 and tried to pick a fight with Galactus. That's how much of an egotistical jackass he is. And he's a scary villain. I mean, there's some scary shit in this movie that I'm sure somebody who hates animal cruelty is probably weeping in the aisles of this film, because I was like, cringing when I saw some shit. I mean, you're not completely oblivious. You saw Rocket with his shirt off in the first movie. You knew some stuff had to happen to turn him into what he is. But Gunn said before, this is going to be a Rocket film. So, and we're going to talk about Katie, the blonde in front of evolutionary fear.
Yes, as Chris said, this is James Gunn's swan song to Marvel, and the way they treated him back in the day when this was this is rightfully so. That could have been done much better, and this, I think, is going to be a big loss to Marvel, because this is a franchise where you have characters that actually have personalities and fun and amazing music that has gone along with every single one of the installments, including Endgame and then the Christmas special. So I think this is going to be a loss, but it's written and directed by James Gunn, starring Bradley Cooper as Rocket, Chris Pratt as Peter Quill, and then the High Evolutionary is Chukwudi Iwuji, who is also in the new DC, what is it? Peace. What's the thing with John Cena? What's the
Peacemaker?
DC? Yes, Peacemaker.
Yeah, he was one of the butterfly aliens.
Yes, he's in Peacemaker, so you'll be able to see him there. But what Chris said, that he's in the league with those villains, I'm gonna actually overstep you. He takes this to a whole new level. I mean, with Thanos, when he does the stuff that he wants to, get rid of 50% of the universe, because, to try and get rid of famine and war and stuff like that, he's thinking of it. And I mean, it is a very disgusting way to look at life, but he's thinking of it in a way that's going to expand life so that it doesn't implode on itself. The High Evolutionary doesn't give a damn about any of that. And one of the things in this film that when I've described this to different people, I actually described this is a horror film that is disguised as a superhero movie. There is so much body horror in this, way more than anything else. You're going to have nods to The Thing, RoboCop, a little bit of Slither, a number of other horror films that I don't want to say too much, because I think it'll give some stuff away. But yeah, I mean, this is brutal. And I mean, it is the origin story of Rocket. So you see him as the teeny tiny little baby raccoon that he is. And then he is just put through all of these just disgusting experiments to go through his mind with his body. You see his little animal friends that have had that have just metal and everything all over him. I will warn, when you take kids, just give them a warning that
Oh my
this is
god.
not this is not like any of the films before that. I also think you need to warn, bring tissue, because there at least some, I had to warn some people. They're like, how many times will I cry? And I say I think there are at least 3 that are definite tear jerkers, and actually more like 5. I did
And
not
the most swear words in a
cry.
Marvel movie too.
What?
The most swear words in a Marvel film.
It is. This is one of those things that, when I was watching it, I definitely thought that, okay, yeah, if I mean, this is a, definitive mic drop for James Gunn. He's like, yeah, Marvel, we're done. We're done. I'm putting it all out there. I felt like this was, with the special effects and everything, that this is one of the most expensive films. It looks like. I don't know about that. I also, I mean, from the get-go, like, you're introduced to Adam Warlock, who I thought was amazing and funny, and Will Poulter. I mean, played by Will Poulter, and honestly, I did not see this type of character in him, and he is fantastic. But wow, there is some stuff he does to Nebula just straight off the bat that it like really is like, holy, this is not the fun-loving kind of funny, Guardians that we're used to. This definitely goes down a dark hallway and opens some doors, into some feelings that, you're probably not going to expect. But I also think it has a lot of great conclusions and story arcs for people. Like, you actually get to, know Mantis. You get to know more about, uh, Gamora, and even though she's not the one that, the Gamora that we've known through 4 movies or somewhat, you get to see who she was before she was a Guardian and who she is now, and that isn't a bad thing. And you get to see Drax like kind of opening up, and also being very frustrating with how much of an idiot he is, but at the same time, it's that idiocy that helps a lot of people. So I had, very different feelings about this, but yeah, I mean, I think if you're into horror, if you know ahead of time what to prepare for, this is a very dark film. I think it's well done in a lot of places. I feel like there are sometimes when the laughs go a little too long and just fall flat. I feel like I'm loving Nathan Fillion. Nathan Fillion, any of my Nathan Fillion fans in there? Woo, woo. Yeah, he's looking great and he's funny. And it's nice. He's was in the original Guardians. You didn't know who he was. But you see him in this one, full face. Yeah.
He looks better than he does on his TV show, honestly. He looks like he did some work for this movie.
I don't know. I think he looks fine as hell. But one of the things I've always loved about James Gunn films is that, and it reminds me of films in the 70s and stuff like that, where you see different people that because, and they're in there because, one, they're talented as hell, but also they have been friends with Gunn for, decades. And I love that he does that in a number of his films. He gets to work with his friends. He gets to showcase their talents. And that's something that, reminds me of people, directors in the 70s and 80s that like came up from nothing and just kept on growing what they were doing. And, different people were writing with each other and all that stuff. I don't feel like I see that much anymore, which is sad, but it's nice to see that, Gunn is doing that. I don't know if he'll do that with DC. I would hope probably, but
we'll see with Superman. That's the first movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the Gunn soundtrack with it. This is definitely more the 90s music that I feel like Guardians was 70, Guardians 1 was 70, Guardians 2 was more 80s, and now this is definitely more the 90s and the early 2000s, more for it. I mean, I'm probably going to buy the soundtrack like I did the first two. Personally, I cried more at 2 than this, but I know a lot of people, like I said, bring the tissues. This has, especially if you have any love for animals, even if you don't have love for Rocket, there are a number of his friends when he's, with the high evolutionary, and they are doing some experiments that are just absolutely delightful. And you'll recognize one of their, I don't want to give away, you can always look it up, but I don't want to give away who the voices are, but one of the voices is very familiar, and it just, I mean, I don't know. It really does break my heart. Just seeing them and their hope and stuff. But yeah, you get to see a little bit of Nowhere and the crowd there, and see where the Guardians are going. At the end, I will say, stay for the very end. There's a very, very important part. It kind of bookends the whole series. I think that is very important, and gives a little glimpse into where we're going after this one. But I enjoyed it, as dark as it was. I mean, I'm a horror nut, so I'm into that. But yeah, just be aware. For little kids, I would say no. I think this is way too dark for little ones. I would say maybe 10 and up, unless you introduce them to like horror films before that. This is definitely, I would say, the darkest of the Marvel universe.
Oh yeah, totally. And we haven't even gotten Blade out yet, so let's like, I mean, Blade is supposed to be Marvel's first horror movie. And yes, Doctor Strange had horror elements, and it was directed by Sam Raimi, but the darkness in Doctor Strange pales in comparison to this movie. I mean, you had a witch, like, just throwing a fit or whatever and killing people for children that never actually existed, and some goofy looking stone monsters in a temple. This had like just the worst things happening to animals, and just a bunch of other stuff, and a lot of like human beats too, like in the second one. The first one I thought had a few human beats. The second one definitely had a lot of human beats and emotions to it, and this one did too. And we get like 2 new characters, one of which was the post-credit scene of the second movie. We get Adam Warlock, who in the comics a lot of people know was supposed to be in the original Infinity Gauntlet storyline. He is the one who takes on Thanos, so his absence from the entire Infinity Saga was like constantly being asked about by fans, like, where is Adam Warlock? He's this big part of the Infinity storyline, and he's kind of a funny joke in this. I don't mind it. He's a very over the top, like, serious character. You can go read him in Warlock Rebirth, which is on the newsstands right now. Guardians of the Galaxy just got a new comic book launched as well. They're gonna fight Blastar, who is a Fantastic Four villain from the Negative Zone. And then we get the High Evolutionary, who first appeared like in a Thor book, like I said, and he's kind of like Kang in a way that I don't think he's ever had a hugely mega popular storyline, but he has been a constant thorn and pain in the ass of evolutionary monsters and muckety muck with evolution things in the comics. He had an entire crossover event in the 80s dedicated to the Marvel Universe trying to stop his evolution of mankind kind of thing. And we'll have to see what happens with him. I don't want to give anything away. I do agree with someone's comment online that we are overusing the Beastie Boys in a lot of things. They listed 10 films, and I don't have the list of the 10 films, but they listed 10 films in the last 10 years that have used the Beastie Boys in their soundtrack for the get up and go fight type scene. The number one on there was Star Trek, the last Star Trek movie.
I mean, it's a get up and go song. It's honestly, it's gonna get used, and it's like, and I don't think that's too bad. I mean, it's it's kind of like when you watch a Vietnam movie and you hear Creedence Clearwater like 18 jillion times. I mean,
or All Across the Watchtower.
Yeah, there's only been like 2. I feel like there's only been like 2 movies about Vietnam that don't have CCR in them. But it's a big, it was a big song regarding, I mean, it's a big band regarding that time. So I mean, I get that with but 10 years, 10 movies, that's not too much. If it was like 20, I could see that being overused. But Yeah, I mean, dude, anytime they play Beastie Boys in a song, and I think there was another one too that was in there, it's like I'm all for it. Like that's my oxygen in when I was growing up. So more to them, more power to them.
If there's any question, yes, there is post-credit scenes. No, they don't lead into another Marvel movie. They are fun, but they do touch upon a comment that Chris Pratt made online today. So a lot of people are like, "What does that mean?" You'll have to go see the movie, but it was fun. It gives some closure, certain things. FYI, if you haven't seen the Christmas special, go watch that first because there's a
Yeah,
big plot point in that movie that they casually mentioned in this film. That is, it's just important to go watch that prior to this because something is revealed about a couple characters. There's no explanation about Cosmo that's really needed. We get our really quick, by the way, for the really nostalgic Marvel fans. Certain characters from the second Guardians return that are famous for their comic book counterparts. And I'm sure somebody's very famous Inside of You podcast is going to be talking about it coming up very soon. But we also get some. It was fun to see Sylvester Stallone doing something again. So he was in the second one. It was more than likely he was going to come back to this one. Him and Gunn have been friends for a long time. So if anyone's not familiar with who he is, he's Starhawk. He's one of the original Guardians of the Galaxy. So
and a Ravager.
And Yes, in the movie, he's a Ravager. In the comics, he is again one of the original Star Guardians of the Galaxy, prior to Peter, prior to Rocket and Mantis and Groot and things like that. Rocket, Mantis, Groot, Star Lord. Man, oh man, were they nothing, nobody characters until this book came along and turned them into like, who are these characters? And this is, I'd say, 2009. Yes, so this is 2009. I mean, this was the Bible Gunn used to do the movie. When they announced Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014, people were like, that's going to be the film that Marvel fails on. And sure enough, it became one of their hottest properties. And they delivered a third film. Unlike some other third film things like previous this year with Ant-Man, Guardians delivers their third and final film. So whether they do another one, who knows? I don't know. I don't want to speculate. Let's let this film come out and have fun with it. It definitely levels up the Marvel Cinematic Universe once again, I think, and it's going to be a gonzo amounts of money. The movie's already made over $110 million in ticket sales, so pre-sales. So that's a good start to after a couple of Marvel films that were in TV series that were kind of like,
Yeah. Well,
so,
and like I said, I mean, if you like horror, then this is the film for you because I again felt like this was way more like a horror film than it was a anywhere in the superhero kind of mainstream aura that they
yeah,
have. It's like there's a lot. So and I
totally.
mean it's that synergy with it. But yeah, there's some stuff that I was like, this, how are people gonna I
Oh
mean,
yeah, and there's a facial reveal in this movie at the end
yeah,
that made a lot of people go, oh!
yeah. And I
Like
mean,
people seriously, I heard people gasp, and a person next to me like completely covered up their face. It was gross. We're talking like Freddy, Jason, Halloween, slasher movie style nasty reveal. It's just terrible. It was awesome. I fucking loved it. But
yeah,
I
it's
was like,
pretty,
oh,
yeah, it was pretty gnarly and yet justified. But yeah, if you like Island of Dr. Moreau, then
oh yeah, there you go. The Island of Dr. Moreau.
definitely,
That is a good analogy for the High Evolutionary and all his crazy stupidity in the comics and this movie.
oh,
Again, a villain I hope we will see again. So we'll
if
have to
only
wait
for
and
the
see.
performance, because I think that actor is absolutely brilliant.
Right.
So,
Right. And they could definitely do something else with it without, I mean, he's called the High Evolutionary for a reason.
and
So
he's talented.
we'll have to wait and see how
Yeah,
what other trouble he can get into. Maybe who knows? I mean, there's a lot of mad scientist characters in the Marvel universe. They're bringing the leader into the Captain America movie. Maybe the High Evolutionary will make like a gesture appearance. And we have TV shows, we have What If cartoons, you know. So who knows what will happen in the multiverse? So check out the rest of the videos here on the Radio Horror YouTube channel. Check out the oh, excuse me, the other reviews. I believe we will be back with another one at some point coming up. We're gonna have Renfield, and we will have the other horror movies that are coming out of this summer, which I don't have the summer release list quite yet. Thank you, everyone. Like, subscribe, and comment. Check out Katie over on her Facebook page. Check out Radio Horror on ours. I
And
have nothing
Instagram,
to give away for this movie.
in front.
Yes, the blonde in front on her Facebook page and on her website. And we'll be back. Check out we got some retro reviews that we're planning on doing too as soon as we get our schedules together. Good night. And may the force be with you, as it is Star Wars Day.
That's right. Star Wars, which one of the things to end on that, James Gunn always wanted, when he was starting Guardians of the Galaxy, he wanted Guardians of the Galaxy to have that Star Wars feel, but not be it. So I know he just did a post. It's like, it feels like a very closing and fitting moment that his final Guardians film comes out on May the 4th. So May the 4th with you, everybody. Mwah.